Genie died. 23 years of service, and now she has to be replaced and scrapped. But on the good side, she was only supposed to last about 10 to 15 years to begin with. And you talk about a noisy battle axe. The older she got, the noisier she got. But when I replace her, I will replace her with another Genie, because 23 years is a good service time. Not only that, the newer technology, the newer models, they are super quiet. Hello, I'm Philip Wade, Country Living with the Wades. This video today is replacing the old Genie garage door opener system that I've had for 23 years with a brand new Genie Ultra-Quiet 3/4 horsepower 2055 system. And it's detailed step by step. It's a little bit of a long video, but it's some very important information you don't get from the other videos. Please watch it and enjoy and be safe. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The last one was half horsepower, so I went with a 3/4 horsepower, and I went with a belt drive for the ultra quiet. So this is a complete package, so let's see what's inside the box. There. Belt drive instead of chain drive. Some connecting hardware, more connecting hardware, lamp covers for the light bulbs, an exterior remote. This is the belt guard. This is where the belt goes around the end of the pulley to make sure the belt doesn't come off the pulley. Belt connecting hardware and connecting hardware. The hardware looks like to connect it to your garage door at the same time. Emergency release bolt and assembly. That's what this package is in the blue. That's the wall remote to go in here. That would be the light and the open and close, and also the vacation lock. This looks like a pulley for the belt. This is the staples, insulated staples to staple your wire. Instructions, parts list, all the other paperwork. The installation wire. Now, I probably will replace my wire. These are the two sensors that go at the bottom of the garage door on each side for the safety beam. So that goes with the wire. A vehicle remote. There are two of these. And this looks like, wow, this is bundled together. Oh, good. I have some more mounting strut. And this is the rail. And the rail is supposed to be assembled with no tools. You just stick it together like plug and play. This is the two pieces that make the connecting handle to connect it to the top of the garage door. And here is the drive section itself. It's a model 2055. I can see here on this end, there's the connections for the wiring going to the sensors. 3/4 horsepower. It's rated to be able to pull 500 pounds. So here's the tools I used on the project. I needed the tape measure to make sure I was centered and to make sure my height was correct. I needed 3 different size wrenches. I needed the 7/16, the 1/2 inch, and the 9/16. I also needed a ratchet. This one had 7/16 a driver. I think I also used a 1/2 inch socket bit. An adjustable, because a lot of times you'll have the same size nut as the same size head of the bolt that you have to tighten both sides at the same time. I needed wire strippers to cut the wire and to strip the wire. I needed a marker to make sure that I had the center and the heights marked correctly. Oh, and this little bitty hammer was just absolutely perfect for putting in the little tacks. I mean, the little staples. These are the staples that they provided. See those, how little they are? That little hammer works perfect for it because those go in real easy and you're a lot less risk of hitting a finger holding them so close. I used a Phillips screwdriver, and this little screwdriver was necessary, a little flat tip, because when you put the wires in, it's a push release type clamp for the wire at the motor. So the installation didn't go bad at all. It was actually fairly easy. It's just a little bit time consuming. I think I had a total of maybe 2 hours reading the instructions and installing the hardware, and then it took me maybe another hour to permanently do the wiring. Programming was not necessary. All I had to do was set the limits for the top position and the bottom position, and it was ready to go. Before I purchase a new unit, there's some questions I need to answer. For one, how tall is my garage door? Is it 7 feet or is it 8 feet? I've just measured it. It's a 7-foot garage door. Well, the first thing I need to do is take the old unit down, clear my workspace out of this area. Now, I have already unplugged it. That was the first thing I did. I'm doing this by myself, so I want to take this end loose before I take the heavy end loose. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a rope on this one so that when I take it loose, it can't fall all the way down. And then I'll move the ladder over to the drive end, the heavy end, and I'll take it loose, take the whole assembly down from there. Now, I watched a video from Genie earlier today before I opened the box up, and I'll put a link to that video down below. But one thing I want to make sure of, there's a safety consideration. You don't want to do anything with your springs on your door unless you've been trained to do it. There's a very high risk of getting hurt. The spring is very strong and it's very lightly wound to take all the weight off of the door. It has a cable off of each end of the rod that goes down that supports the door from the bottom, so that when you pick the door up, the spring unwinds to take out most of the weight. So this spring is very, very strong. You've got to know what you're doing when you mess with it. Please be careful. Don't mess with it. If you have to change it because it's too heavy or it doesn't work right, call somebody that works on garage doors. There was the mounting bracket, and then there was just one bolt at the end, the pivot bolt, and I took the pivot bolt out. That's all I had to disconnect on this end. This works real well. I'll just cut. Get this cover off too. Now the instruction sheet was really big, so I just hung it up on a shelving unit that was here. You'll see the different colors, like this one is orange, and then there's blue and green and so forth. That means when you're doing this section here, assembling the opener, all your parts are going to be in the orange bag, and it keeps the parts together. Now, the only thing that's different about that is you'll have something like the little pulley down in the end is going to be in a little clear bag by itself. So in this section here, you're still using the orange bag. This is installing the bracket opener to the wall. This is to the header right above the garage door. You have that little bracket. You have to make a cross or something right there in the middle of where it goes, so you know it's centered and it's at the correct height, so when the garage door comes up, it does not hit the opener rail. So here I actually used a level because it was just easier for me to use a level to mark the correct height. Here's something I want to make sure you see. This QR code takes you to the factory installation video from YouTube, and it's really, really good. There's also another one for the programming that's connected to this one, but this is specifically for your opener. So section number 3 is mounting the opener to the ceiling. And that doesn't give you a whole lot of information right here. Basically, you've got to have something to hang it from the ceiling, and they are showing something on that right there. But they do provide the two vertical pieces for you, but you're still going to have something to connect actually on your ceiling itself, probably. So that's the only thing you'll have to go to a hardware store for. The next section here, working out of the blue bag, is attaching the opener to the door. That's real simple. That's the only thing you have to be careful of there is to make sure that you have no more than 30 degrees right here, because you don't want to pull away from the door. You want to be able to pull the door up. Section 5, wiring the opener. It just shows you wiring the opener here. It gives you a very clear picture of the terminals and how the wiring goes into the terminals. Now, like I said, the wall unit, when you put in the wall unit, you just have the two wires coming over, and they just go to the two terminals here on the right side. If it's not wired correctly, when you turn the power on, this will not turn red. When you turn the power on, if it's wired correctly, this button will turn red, so you can see the button at nighttime. Now, the most important thing is, once you put power on and you plug it in, make sure you don't try to open it and close it until you set your limits. You don't want to damage or break the unit. All right, so the old unit is down. I still have a bracket to take off on this end. Now I need to raise the door up until it's at the highest point so I can measure how high that is with respect to the floor. I don't have two people working with me, so it's just me. But you can see my door opens and closes easily because the spring tension is properly set. So since it's not much weight, I'm just going to pull the door up on something and see where it comes up to. Well, it's not quite there yet. Let me go just a little bit higher because the wheel needs to be right at the top of the curve, right where it's starting to get on the flat rail. Maybe another 1.5 inches. Oh, I think that's exactly the right place. The top edge now is at the highest place. And the wheel, if you see the top wheel, it's right at the point where the top of the curve begins to become flat. That gives me the highest point up there because the rail has to clear the top of this. You don't want this coming up and hitting the rail. So now that I have it at the highest place, I'm going to use a level and a permanent marker to mark the position on the wall in the center of the door. Now that I have the top of the door marked on the wall, then I'll make my next mark 2.5 inches above that. Pulley goes through the middle. Pin goes through the middle of the pulley. And then I put all right, that's one. Now the 2-inch bolt. The writing is up, so I want to keep it that way. Keep this writing up and set them upside down. That's why I put the pin on the bottom. Right now, put the 2-inch bolt in there. Screw it with a nut. Now, this is a locking flange nut, so you don't need a lock washer with it. But you do need 2 inches. All right, this piece, which was not in the orange bag, neither was the pulley. But see, it has the directions saying to the doors. This is the end that's going to be next to the end wall of the doors. Slides on in this direction. Now I need to put all the sections together. this piece is not in an orange bag either. It's in a separate bag. Okay. So when I have it so that that's in the correct position, this piece should be on the bottom because it will connect to the drive unit. And there's a bracket I have to put on. Just snaps in, I guess. Just slides on, that's all. Nice long belt. On the ends of the cable, on the ends of the belt, there is a brass colored or gold colored threaded end. And on this one, there's a silver colored. You have to make sure that the gold colored is on this side over here, the end that's going to be towards the door. And if you'll notice, very small little text right there is stamped in door. This is going to connect to the gold colored screw. I have to bring it through this. Once you get it started, you need to hold the belt with each hand and turn this in the middle to tighten more and more. As you do, the belt will get tighter. That's getting pretty snug. Make sure my belt's not twisted. Do I have a twist? And this way. I set the turnbuckle to where it's just about in the middle of the rail. I got my ends started. Now, very carefully making sure I hold both ends of the belt solid, and I try and turn the turnbuckle more and more to tighten it, making sure that I don't have any twist in my belt. Make sure your belt's solid on the end over there, that it's actually going through the pulley properly, and also on the drive end over here, make sure it's going through properly. Now, this is your release and connector. Flip this handle down, and it will go over the turnbuckle. I don't have this tight enough yet, but my belt is still sagging. I'm supposed to tighten it up until it stays about 1/4 inch above. Let me tighten it up some more. Now my belt is lined up straight. There's no twist in the belt. Raise it up. It's supposed to go a little bit tighter still. Looks like most of my sag is gone in there, so it must be tight enough. I have 2 7/16. Put one in the middle to hold it in place. And I'm going to tighten this nut down. And I'll do the same thing on this side. And my belts are still straight. All right, now I'm supposed to screw this down, flip it over so this is top side up. Set it down on the gear control box there. Line it up with the screws. 2 self-tapping screws here. You get the ratchet for this. And now I put the bracket on, which I should have kept on. before I did the belt. The bracket didn't want to stay on, so I put the belt on without the bracket. One thing I want to caution you on is when you tighten these up, don't really torque them down tight, because this isn't very thick metal and these are self-tapping screws. If you're not careful, they'll strip everything right through. All right, this is the belt guard. What it does is it keeps the belt from ever jumping off the drive sprocket. Takes little straight screws, not Phillips screws. There, that completes this step. I'm going to mark my holes where my bolts are going to go for the end bracket that hooks the bolts into the header. I already have the crosshairs at 2.5 inches up above center of the door, 2.5 inches above the highest point, and that's how this should fit. This should be immediately centered over the cross. I can make my marks for my header bolts because I have to drill right here. I have to drill a 5 30-seconds hole. There's two reasons for drilling the holes. One is because it makes the center point for the bolt straight. And number two, the biggest reason is it prevents splitting the header board. Get this one started here. Get the other one started. Now at this point, because I can't reach this, but I need the ladder back here, so as soon as I do connect this, I've got it supported on the ladder. I need a little step stool here. Slide everything this way a little bit. Actually, I need the ladder just a little bit closer this way. Everything should hold good there. Yeah, put my clevis pin in on this end. There's the clevis pin here. This end is connected. Now I just need to put the cotter pin in it. Now is the dilemma. Why is it a dilemma? Because it's not really in the instructions, but you have to figure out how to do it yourself. You want this to be level so that it maintains the same height above the garage door as it pulls the garage door back. And in addition, you want it to be centered this way. I already have my top bracket mounted because I'm able to use the one from before. And luckily, this new Genie has the brackets on the side that you can adjust this way and this way. So if you're not exactly lined up on the top, you still have some adjustment room. And number two, the other thing is, the only thing that you're having to support on this end is just the weight of the Genie itself, which is, I don't know, 8 pounds maybe. It's not very heavy. A gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So when you raise it up, hold it up in position, that's all that has to be held up on. All the force to raise and lower the door travels only through the rail, the rod that goes from here to the wall, and the pressure at the pivot pin or the clevis pin where it connects to the header. That's the only place there's any pressure. There's no pressure on this part here except to suspend this in the right position. Now, I can't imagine somebody, okay, have you got it centered yet? No, a little left. Oh, my arms would get so tired before I got there. So I'm going to do something a little different. I have some leftover speaker wire. I'm just going to tie some speaker wire from here to here, hang it up over there, get my measuring tape out, measure and make sure I keep everything straight. And then once I have it in position, then I'll take these, the permanent ones, and I'll mount them some kind of way up here that mounts this so everything stays exactly like it's supposed to. I'll have to cut the length, I know, to get the right height, but hey, once I've got it suspended with this, that's no big deal. You could also do a string on there too. Like I said, there's no weight, no real pressure on this at all. I'll just take this one, tie it up to one of those, and get it to the right height. I need to cut off all this excess. I know this is way more than what I need, and this is just leftover scrap wire. I'm going to raise my garage door. All right, garage door is all the way up, and I see the first problem. I can see it's not high enough because it's actually touching the garage door right there, and it's not centered either. That's more the center. So I need to move it about an inch or so over this way, and I need to raise it up. So I need to move it over to where it's centered on the garage. That means I need to move this over a couple of holes. Let me take my wire back loose here. That looks pretty good. Let me tie this off and see how this works. All right, let's see. I'll close the garage door. All right, and now I'm going to measure with the tape measure the height from here to the bottom, and I'll come back over here and I'll do the same thing from the bottom of the rail and make sure that it's level with the garage floor. And I have 96 1/2 inches, 97 inches. So I'm a 1/2 inch too high. So I'll lower this by 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. A little bit more than 1/2 inch. Right there, that's it. I'm in the right place. Now, I want to measure from my existing bracket down to the mounting bracket that's on the top of Genie. And from there to there, I am 15 1/2 inches on this side. I know it's not perfectly level because I just hung it quickly with the wire. And yeah, I can do 15 inches on each side. Now here's something else. When I make my brackets coming straight down, if the holes, because the holes are say 1 inch apart roughly on the support brackets, if that's going to cause it to be lower or higher, I can just change the angle like this, you know, to make that adjustment for a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch if I need to. I did have a little difficulty with the supplied brackets pieces, even though I cut them off to what I thought should be a good length. They didn't line up exactly with the top piece, so I needed to be able to twist it. So I cut some gaps in on one side so I could be able to twist it. Then I realized this comes down into the area where the light cover is going to be. There's no problem at all because of the clearance that I have right here. So this is good and solid. It's ready to go. So now this is hung and it's solid in place. It's centered exactly like it should be at the correct height. It's connected here on the header board. My hardware installation is complete. So now it's very easy for me to think, oh good, I'm almost finished. But yet I still have to put the sensors in. I still have to run the new wiring for the sensors. I still have to do the programming. I still have to set the limits of how far the garage door goes up and how far it goes back down. But my total time so far is maybe 20 minutes to take the old unit down. And 20 minutes because I had to take the header brace off of it also, and that took me a little while. And then I've got probably 2 hours invested in putting in the new one, making sure it's measured in the right place, and so forth. I did not have to replace the top bracket against the ceiling. I was able to reuse the existing one, so maybe that saved me a little bit of time as well. But now I'm going to take a break. I have some other things I need to do, and I'll be back tomorrow to put the sensors in, run the wiring, do the program, and finish this up. Here's the contents of the blue bag. You can see the braces to connect to the garage door and the mounting screws for it. Then you see the two black pieces. They are the adjustable connection link that goes between the garage door opener and the door. Well, my door already has the mounting attachment, the brace here, and it also has its own pin and clevis. So I'm going to start with the one that goes to the carriage. Now you'll notice I'm starting this one with the 2 bolt holes at the top and the 4 bolt holes are at the bottom. Put the clevis in. That's it. I'm taking my bolts and my nuts and putting them right here. Convenient little temporary shelf. Now this is the elbow piece that connects to the door. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the clevis pin off of this one. I'm going to put this one in right here. Put the clevis pin back in. Now, I can change this angle, making it a steeper angle like this. I can bring the angle out further, and as I do, it changes the holes. It says it should not be more than 30 degrees. I don't know what 30 degrees is. That might be 30 degrees about right there. Could be, yeah. I think it's a little bit less than 45, so it must be 30. But if I bring it up to about here, where does that come out? If I bring it up to about to the next hole, that's pretty steep. Let me see what that looks like. Got a knot just started on it. I don't have to tighten them up when I'm just trying to get it, figure out how it works. One thing that's important about this is the connection should not be more than 30 degrees. The holes should be spaced to give you the maximum distance between them, between the bolts. Because when this carriage starts to go back, you want it to be trying to pull up. If it's going back too far, you don't want it to be trying to pull this way because it's got to make a compromise to start to go up at the curved angle there. To me, I guess that looks pretty good at that position. I'll go ahead and I'll tighten these down. Now these are 3/8 bolts, so they have 9/16 heads on them. All right, that's in place. And now let me tie the rope, the release rope. Let's see, it doesn't pull through. Do the same thing on the handle. Put it through, tie a simple knot on the end, And there, I have my emergency release. They call it emergency release, but this, for me, is just manual operation. I wanted to run new wire, so I started from where the old sensor is, which I have not replaced yet. I may be able to reuse the same sensor because they were replaced a few years ago. And I taped my wire in place. Yes, it's just taped in place. But that's temporary. But to make sure I had the correct amount of wire, I started on the left-hand sensor, taping it with about a foot extra there at the sensor, coming up the wall to the ceiling, and then I came across, and then I came all the way back to the controller. And once I got to the controller, I dropped down about a foot past the controller, I cut the wire, and I started a new run, going back down to the garage door ceiling, over to the right-hand sensor. Left myself about an extra foot or so there, then I cut the wire. At that time, I measured what I had left, and I had just over 25 feet, about 26 feet. So I ran it back to the back wall, and we have a fairly deep garage, and down to where the controller is going to be. And I still had a little bit of wire left over, so it was just the perfect length of wire. I did replace my sensors, but that's not a big deal. It only took a few minutes. I just took the screws off of the old one, put in the new one. I have maybe a full hour in and doing the wiring, maybe another 15 minutes of replacing the sensors. All right, so now the power is turned on. Turned on means I have it plugged in. I have the lights on the LEDs. The red light is on the wall unit. And on the wall mount unit, the light is red. That tells me it's properly wired. Oh, if you're wondering about the paper towel stuffed in the fish's mouth, it's because if the garage door is open, birds in the springtime try to make a nest in his mouth. At this point, it's very important. Do not try and open the door until the limits are set. Now, the limits are real easy to set. Now, your turnbuckle should be somewhere in the middle. They should not be at one end or the other. And this should be released so you can manually open the garage door. The first thing to do is to open the garage door and allow it to latch in up here. To do that, you have to flip this so that it will catch the turnbuckle when I open it manually. Well, I caught that nice and easy. So now, the garage door is somewhere in the middle. It's not fully open, it's not fully closed. At this point, I'm going to start with programming. When I was showing you how to set the upper and lower limits, I was calling this button a reset button. It's actually a program set button. So I'm going to program the down limit first, and the down limit, to program the down limit, you press and hold the down arrow up here. You press and hold the down arrow until the light turns blue, you let go, and it starts to flash. Once it starts to flash, you can raise it and lower it with the up arrow and the down arrow until you get it in the correct position. Once you have it in the correct position, where your pad at the bottom is touching all the way across, press the reset button. The down limit is set. The blue light is on. I let go. Now it's flashing. So now I'm going to adjust it with a down arrow. All right, it's snug all the way across. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to press the reset button. The light goes off. Now it's a solid blue, and the blue light is off. Now I'm ready to program the up limit. I'll do the same thing, but this time I'll press and hold the up arrow. Now I have the blue light, I'll let go, and it's flashing. So now I can raise it with the up arrow. Now you don't want to bring it up all the way so hard that it hits this, but you want to make sure you're fully open at the same time. Let me see where I'm at. I'm not fully open here, but I still have about almost a foot here, so I'm going to raise it up a little bit higher. Oh yes, I'm fully open right here. I still have clearance here, but it's not much. I'm going to bump it down just a little bit to be safe. still fully open here. Now I have probably 6 or 7 inches before anything with a turnbuckle touches back in the back. So this is ready to go. Now I'll press my reset. My blue light is solid on, and now they're off. My limits should be set. So now I'm going to press the wall button and make sure it goes all the way down, and then I'll press it again to make sure it goes all the way up. Well, going all the way down was perfect. I made a good solid seal exactly where I set it at. Now let me try the up limit. Perfect. That's how easy it is to set the lower and upper limits. Now I can use the remotes in the car, which are already pre-programmed. I can also use the button on the wall. All I have left is the keypad on the outside. And now it comes with a default number. I think it's something like 357. Yes, I think it's 357 is the default number. So I want to change that. Now if you're a hunter, maybe you want to do something that you remember easy, 3030, 243, 308. So when you program it, make sure you use a number that everybody's not going to know, like your street address, for example. Don't put that one in. Don't put your last 4 of your phone number in. Put something in that's easy to remember. All right, but there's one more thing left to do with the travel, and that is to set the force to make sure that when it comes down to the proper pressure. If it hits something, it stops and returns and goes back up. Other than that, the only thing left to do is program the keypad on the outside. Well, I'm doing the force test now. I just used a can of dog food. Works perfect. For the remote keypad, the instructions are in 2 places. One, they're right here on the inside, and you're also in the owner's manual. The first thing you need to do is make it recognize the default code, and then you have to put your whatever code that you want in. This video is long enough. I'll let you figure this out by yourself.